Welcome everyone to another episode of What's Up Mainframe. You can spot right away that something different. You would expect Zach sitting on this chair, but we swapped the roles for this special episode because we want to talk about a product that we missed so far. So let's fix this gap and talk about Team Build. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me, so to speak.
How is it?
Well, we were effectively avoiding it because it's product I'm responsible for, and we were talking about other solutions. So,
you call it a conflict of interest or what?
Not quite that, but I like being the host. I don't have to talk as much, and now you're going to interview me. This seems like more work.
That is my expectation. I have 4 questions prepared. So question number 1, let's get started. In one of the recent episodes, you were talking with Greg Sprenger, right?
Yeah.
And he described his experience at the customer side with a Git-native solution using Team Build.
Yes.
I would like to step back a little and get some explanation what Team Build is in general.
All right, so I'm going to back up a little bit further even. And in general, when we look at helping customers around kind of their modernization goals, we try to look at it as, it's always a journey, and there are a lot of different steps that you can kind of take towards, different outcomes. And since the majority of our customers, use Endeavor as their SCM, there's often this question of how can we go from working in Endeavor to working more in Git, working with the IDE of choice, etc. And so we kind of offer this phased approach to Git adoption, where a lot of customers start by working in Endeavor, but connecting to Endeavor via web services using Explorer for Endeavor, which is part of Code4Z. So they get the experience of working in an IDE, but otherwise they're working with elements directly, etc. And then people take the step where they want to enable, some of their developers to work in Git and using Code4Z, using VS Code as the IDE. And so that's kind of more a hybrid Git scenario, which is using Bridge for Git. So Bridge for Git allows you to connect your applications from Endeavor to Git repositories. And then you can have some developers who work in Git and make changes and then synchronize them to Endeavor, and other developers can continue working in Endeavor. So it's kind of a nice, right? It's a nice step towards having Git for your ZOS applications in your organization, but you're not telling everyone, hey, they got to make the dramatic change. As teams get more comfortable working in Git, especially, one of the questions they often have is, I want to make code changes, and then I actually want to compile them. I want to generate them in some way, build them, before I synchronize them to Endeavor. Because obviously the generation happens in Endeavor, but as a developer, I want to be able to make sure that my changes are going to be valid and are going to go. And that's where originally Team Build came in, was connecting with this Endeavor hybrid Git scenario and enabling those developers working in Git to have build scripts for their applications so that they could make changes and then actually sync those changes to a USS directory and run a compilation and get the report of that build back to their local workspace. So that's...
And if they succeed, they will continue.
And then they continue with that hybrid Git scenario, and Endeavor maintains the latter part of the software lifecycle. But then Team Build is much more than just those developer builds. So Team Build really allows you to develop build scripts, not just from extracting information from Endeavor, but it actually has a standard library where you can construct build scripts for your ZOS applications entirely out of an Endeavor context. And so we kind of call this more the Git-native workflow or Git-native approaches. And that's what Greg was talking about, that one customer setup. That the customer in that story, they were on a different SCM on the mainframe. And they extracted the applications into Git, and then with team build, they developed those build scripts. So they could do general builds of the applications. All of their developers now work in Git. They use team build to do builds. They have pipeline builds, and they actually use team build scripting capabilities for deployments as well. And so they're really managing their ZOS applications and the processes around them in Git. So that would be a full Git-native workflow.
They don't need Endeavor or another SCM.
No, so team build, it integrates with Endeavor, but it also really is a toolkit, as Greg said in their ethos, small tools, big outcomes. It's really a toolkit that can help just with managing ZOS applications in Git.
Okay. So I always wonder, what is the relationship between the Endeavor and the team build? Is it like a father and son, or they are best friends, or big brother and small brother? What is it?
And also, there's a good opportunity to kind of clarify that, because originally team build, while it had a lot of additional capability baked into it, even from the beginning, it was meant to support Endeavor and this hybrid Git use case. So, we saw a lot of customers taking that step of mapping their applications into Git, and then they needed a way to do developer builds. So that was kind of the initial use case for a team build. But it also had some of the scripting capabilities and the standard library to generate build scripts. It's just that we were focused on Endeavor customers. But more other customers using other SCMs have sort of discovered team build and what it really enables, and have looked at going more Git native and having team build at the heart of it. So big brother originally,
Don't
something
say
like
Big
big
Brother.
brother. That sounds bad. That sounds bad. No, I mean they were family members. They're still kind of distant family members.
All right. I know it has more parts. So
Yeah.
can you tell us more about how customers actually may be adopting it, or what different parts they are using?
Yeah. So the product is called Team Build. It's a toolkit. It's a package of components. And so when I talk about the Endeavor related use case, one of the components is called Export Z. And so Export Z actually gets build information from Endeavor, from the processors, and generates scripts. And that's what helps with this hybrid Git setup. That's just one of the components though, Export Z. Then there are SyncZ and BuildZ, and these are the primary components for the build processes. So SyncZ actually synchronizes your files from your local workspace to ZOS, and then BuildZ is actually doing the compilations, doing the dependency management, etc., and that's running on ZOS. And then there's a component called PublishZ, which allows you to publish to Artifactory. And there's a component called SBOMZ. And this is kind of an interesting part of Team Build, is that, so SBOMZ allows you to generate software bills of materials. So there's, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of legislation in the US, in the EU, about really securing your software supply chain. And so an SBOM is basically like, the ingredients on a can of soup. That's the image we always use when talking about SBOMs. The reason that we created SBOMZ is obviously to meet the needs of our customers who have to fulfill the requirements stated by these governments. But when you think about the software development process, is when you're making changes and you create a package and you want to publish it somewhere, or you want to push it through your lifecycle, you want to have a means of validating what's in that package through the stages of the lifecycle. So SBOMZ can be used for exactly that in relation to team build packages, or it also supports Endeavor packages. So you can set up a pipeline to generate SBOMs for Endeavor packages. So SBOMZ is kind of a catch-all component for managing SBOMs in a variety of use cases. And so to the part of your question about what's the entry point for customers, it varies based on, are they using Endeavor or not? Are they going with the hybrid Git use case? Have they already been working in that way for a while and they need developer builds? Okay, so there's obviously a path using export seed, setting up the scripts. Maybe they're looking at general management of their ZOS applications. They're trying to make it fit in Git because their organization wants to see the use of common tooling. So then they're probably looking at the whole package, but especially sync Z and build Z. And then some of them are kind of coming at it from the security or auditing point of view because of the legislation and saying, oh, SBOM-Z actually enables the generation of SBOMs for even data sets or file or Z files, right? As well as the Endeavor packages and team build packages. So several different points of entry for using team build.
Zach, I have to tell you, as a guest, you are performing great job.
Okay.
Exactly as I hope that I will just ask a simple question and you will take a 10-minute answer. I would like to get back to the hybrid scenario and take the advantage of that you used to be a product owner of Bridge for Git.
Yes.
And Bridge for Git is also part of the scenario. So what is the developer day if they are using Bridge for Git and team build as well? Can you...
Okay. So if we look at this particular entry point, so to speak, that a lot of customers are going after because they have Bridge for Git set up, a developer working with Bridge for Git, right, is going to be working within a Git repository because that's what the mapping in Bridge for Git is. And alongside of that, they're actually going to have build scripts, or they're going to have access to build scripts. You can manage them in the same Git repo, or you might manage the build scripts in a common location in USS. It just depends on how you want to set up your project. But a lot of this will just be set up for the developer. So from their perspective, they're going to go into a Git repo. They're going to make changes to certain elements, whatever the task calls for. And then, especially if they're working in VS Code, they're either going to use a build task, which has been set up for them inside VS Code itself, because you can set up tasks, or they're just going to open their command line interface and they're going to do a sync Z task build or impact build, whatever type of build they have configured, and that's going to trigger the build process. The scripts are going to look at what components were changed. Look at the dependency tree, figure out what needs to get pulled in, and then run the build and sync the listing back to the workspace. So for the developer, they're kind of just making changes working in VS Code, and the information or the action is triggered by CLI or a task, and then the information comes back to them. So if anyone's curious, and I think we talked about it a few episodes ago, but we're about a month out or a couple weeks now from the Code for Z Developer Day, which will be part of the Mainframe Technical Exchange. And actually, team build is at the heart of the end-to-end developer scenario, because you want to be able to obviously build your changes. And I mentioned the Developer Day because we're excited about it, but the Developer Day is basically a distillation of the kind of workshops that we do for customers generally. So if you're ever curious about going hands-on with kind of this hybrid Git or just working in Git scenario with team build, request a workshop from us and you'll get to go hands-on with it.
Exactly. I have to leverage your skills of being host. Is there any other questions that you would ask yourself, you or me?
I'm not going to. No. I get started and I can't stop.
Okay, then thank you for being here and explain finally what team build is, what does it do, and maybe see you on the workshop.
Definitely, yeah. We'll go through it together.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Ooh.